eons ago, as a Cub reporter at the Denver Post, my first major beat was the Denver Nuggets. And my first year on the job was Dan Issel's last year.
Yeah.
That wasn't Dan Issel out there. That was an old guy doing an impression of Dan Issel. Flash forward a couple decades. I walked out of the building with Patrick Waugh the night he played his last game for the Avs. Those are two Hall of Fame players, Issel and Waugh. I think I know a look of a guy that's done. Peyton Manning is done.
Well, we saw it recently with Champ Bailey.
Let me play devil's advocate here for a second, okay? Last year, Peyton broke every record imaginable. And I know that was last year. But the first half of this season, he was pretty darn good, guys. He was pretty darn good. So I still have in my mind this question of, is it Peyton getting old, or is it a combination of a 38-year-old quarterback who is in some decline, along with not having a guy he relied on heavily in Julius Thomas for the second half of the season, all right?
Who he had at least part of the time yesterday.
Well, he was terrible, though. His rhythm being thrown off, taking Peyton out of his game by changing the way they play offense here.
Okay,
he didn't react well to that, and he didn't look happy with that either.
My response to changing the game, the way they played, was your man Elway and John Fox saying, you know what? We can't lean on this guy anymore because he can't do it every game.
You're talking about a decline that should force him out of the game. I'm talking about a gradual decline, not a rapid decline, not a fall off the end of the table decline. He was doing it and doing it at a very high level just 2 months ago.
And how long did it take from Champ Bailey to go from Pro Bowler to the retirement ceremony? That was less than 18 months.
I know. That's a different position, though, Mark. It really is. That's a position where you lose your quickness. Boom. That quickly.
Well, if you lose your arm, I'm going to chime
But I think
in.
the injury has something to do with it, Wood.
No,
I think it does.
I'm going to tell you.
He threw it 54 times against St. Louis. He wasn't hurt. I saw him stand up there, and that was a beaten man. That was a man who said, I can't do this anymore.
We're not. Yeah, we are piling on you. But I go back to early in the year, and I turned to, I don't know that, I wasn't talking to Mark at that point, but I was talking to Mike Kliss and Troy Rink, and it may have been in a car, in a Fiat in Boston.
Fiat, you were stuck in the backseat of a
and
Fiat.
I said, you know what is disturbing to me about Peyton Manning at that point was he was not barely missing. He was missing by 4 or 5 yards. So even the period of time where you were talking about that he was still throwing 32 touchdown passes through 12 games, because I looked the other day, he was still missing guys like he did yesterday with Emmanuel Sanders. He was missing him by 4 or 5 yards.
I'm not denying he was inaccurate. His throws had no zip on them, and he was making bad decisions. I get all that. I just don't think he is totally done. I just don't see it.